found this piece of what I thought was pine, but turned out to be cedar, which I found out after I planed it by the beautiful smell that it had, and I wanted to figure out a project to do with it. And since recently I've been into joinery a lot, I thought I'd try and make a box. I had that spare chaser board going behind that piece of cedar just to make sure we didn't get any snipe on it, as this was the perfect length that I needed to make a box that was of a substantial size. You can see that I got it down to a 1/2 inch, and that was a really nice size. It has enough weight still, but also is light. Now I'm using my marking knife to mark out the sections that I have to cut out. The marking knife helped reduce some tear out. If you'd like plans for this project, you can click the link in the description to become a patron, because my patrons on Patreon get my project plans. There's no pressure to go and join and donate, but it really does help support the show. I'm making sure that all of the walls are about the same size, and I had to take a hand plane, a low angle hand plane, to thin down one of the walls a little bit. Marking up all the boards to be then later cut was a little bit tedious, but taking the time to make the accurate measurements and layout lines really paid off in the end, because this has been my best joinery project yet. Always remember to mark your waste material. That saw I'm using, I made the handle for. I made a video of me making handles for some saws. There'll be a link for that in the corner and in the description. And I think it was a really fun video. Came out really, really well. We can start removing the waste material. That way the pieces of wood can mate together nicely and have a good fit. My saw control got much, much better than it was before with this project. This is a tool I haven't used in quite a while. It's my Craftsman scroll saw. There's a link to all the tools I use and recommend in the description. And it's quite a beast. It holds up to a lot of abuse, and I'm using it to remove the waste material. My coping saw blades are all dull and broken, so I didn't have any left, so I thought that using the scroll saw would be the best idea. It ended up working extremely well. I forgot how good I was at using the scroll saw, and I got to the point where it could cut fairly straight lines. I was a little bit out of practice, so some of the lines were a little bit wavy, but I was able to clean them up using a chisel. I made that mallet in a previous video, and I'm using it to clean up and fine-tune the joints. There's a link in the description and in the corner again if you want to check out a t-shirt of that mallet where you can support the show, and a video where I made that mallet. That joint is nice and tight, and now I can do the same thing I was just doing then with all of the other pieces. I'm using a template that I have for cutting out spatulas, just to give my router bit, which is a rabbiting bit, an 1/8 inch away, to make the cutting edge an 1/8 inch away from the back face of the wall. This will make the rabbet a little bit shallower and give the wood more strength because it was going a little bit too deep for my liking. And I am using my router for this. I didn't see a better way to get a more accurate rabbet, as my handling skill with my chisels is still something I need to work on. This was not at all the safest way to make these cuts. If you have some sort of router table or sled to do this, it would be much safer. I was actually doing some climb cuts, like right here. This is a climb cut, and that's very dangerous because the router bit can grab and pull away from you and also ruin your work. Now it's all about repeating that same process with the other walls. That way our bottoms can fit in. Bless you, Mom. So, this is just a nice dry fit up to see that the joints would fit together nicely and there weren't any big gaps that I wouldn't be able to close with a little bit of sawdust and glue. I unfortunately lost the footage of me making the bottoms and the top of the box. Since the dry fit up looked really good, I could now move on to gluing all of it up. I used a liberal number of clamps here, and I wanted to make sure that it was a nice tight glue up, and I actually had very few gaps. This is my best joinery project ever. I had some toast while I waited for the glue to dry. We can now remove all of the clamps and really see how well this box is turning out to be a box, and I think it's looking really good. I wanted to move directly onto sanding, that way I wouldn't have to do very much finishing with the boxes and pieces. So of course you gotta put on your personal protective equipment, and I just sanded the box up to 220 grit. As it's a softwood, it won't get a very high luster on it. And with the box now sanded, I can mark out where I want to cut out the lid from the rest of the box. This was a little nerve-wracking because I had to start cutting something I worked for many hours on in half practically, but it ended up working out really well. I would rip cut all the way through the board that's facing the ceiling and then turn the box 90 degrees and then again cut on that board that's facing the ceiling. This would make sure that I didn't have too much tear out on the inside of the box. I mistakenly took the box out of the vise I have and dropped it and turned it. I was like, oh no, because I didn't know where it lined up, but I was able to find it again thanks to some knots that were in the box. Again, using that template that I have to cut out another rabbet, I guess. I'm not sure what it's called, but again, this is not at all a safe way to do this. You'd want to use some sort of router sled or router table to do this cut. I unfortunately do not have a router table. There was no way for me to use the router to make a corresponding part for the inside of the box, so I just had to go at it with hand tools, but it still worked very, very well. That joint was not as clean as the one that I used the router on, but it worked, and it's a utilitarian thing, you know? It's not anything that's going to be pretty and seen. I got a nice tight fit up between the top of the box and the bottom of the box, I guess, you know, the lid and the bottom. And now I can move on to finishing. I'm just using some mineral oil, and there wasn't much pop to the grain, but it still looked very, very beautiful. I could not be happier with the way this project turned out. I'm really, really amazed at how quickly my skill with my handsaw and my chisels are increasing. I'm getting better and better at joinery and tool control. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you really love what I'm doing here, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.